Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 47th episode of Stories of Service, ordinary people who do extraordinary work. And I am the host of Stories of Service, Teresa Carpenter. And here is the first podcast back from Germany. So you'll see I've got the backdrop that you guys have used to been seeing for a long time since the podcast has started well over a year ago. And today, as I always do, I have another amazing guest. And I always love it when I have active duty guests who are military leaders. And that is what I have today. I have Captain Erin Acosta, and I'm going to read you guys a little bit about her bio, and then I'm just going to go right into some questions. Feel free to put your questions over there in the chat if you see it on the chat for wherever you're tuning in from, be that from Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. And then if you're listening to us through the audio later, please feel free to follow up with me for any other additional questions that you have. So first off, I do want to say that the METOC officers, they're part of every aspect of warfare and military operations, movement, and exercises. There really isn't a thing that the METOC experts don't touch in terms of the military naval operations. And Captain Erin Acosta here, she is a native of Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. She was commissioned through the U.S. Naval Academy in 2000, and she's currently the commanding officer of the Fleet Weather Center in Norfolk, Virginia. She served 4 years at sea, including a tour as first lieutenant aboard USS Decatur and a tour as staff oceanographer, scheduler, and staff navigator for Carrier Strike Group 2, embarked on USS George H. Bush. While attached to Carrier Strike Group 2, she participated in the Haitian earthquake response effort as the Navy Liaison Officer to Joint Task Force-Haiti, the J35 Future Operations in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. Her shore tours include Forecast Duty Officer and Command Duty Officer at the Naval European Meteorology and Oceanography Center in Rota, Spain, the Joint Meteorology and Oceanography Officer at the Combined Joint Task Force Horn of Africa as an individual augmentee requirements officer for the ISR Capabilities Division. She was on the Chief of Naval Operations staff, that is OPNAV N2, N6, F2, and she was also the Deputy Executive Assistant to the Oceanography and Navigator of the Navy. She's been an Executive Officer for the Fleet Numerical Meteorology and Oceanography Center and Senior Oceanography Assistant and Placement Officer at Naval Personnel Command. She's also completed a special assignment as an Associate Fellow on the CNO's Strategic Studies Group in Newport, Rhode Island, an innovative think tank for the Navy. She also previously commanded Naval Oceanography Anti-Submarine Warfare Center, Yokosuka, Japan. Welcome, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
So first off, I always start with these podcasts with the people who have either served in the military or are currently serving with what made you decide to join the Navy?
Absolutely. No, thank you for the question. I was always intrigued to service, either to community or to country growing up. My father served in Vietnam during the war, and I have an uncle who was in the United States Navy. And so although I don't come a family of multiple military members, I do come from a family of service. And I was intrigued at the Navy. There used to be a tagline that says it's an adventure, not a job. Right. And that very much interested in me. So I started to research what might be available in the Navy. And I enjoyed the opportunities that the Navy seemed to present and offer. And I did a summer seminar program for the Naval Academy, and I was really drawn to, I'm a competitive person, so competitiveness of it, as well as the rigor, as well as the academic reputation of the institution, not to mention the help with cost for a college education. And so I arrived at the Naval Academy in July of 1996, and I've been serving ever since.
Wow, so you joined July 1996. I joined April 1996. So we've been in just about the same amount of time. I went enlisted and you went to the Naval Academy. How was that process? For those people who are interested in doing one of the academies, that's such a different process than so many, I think, that I know, just because I didn't go that route. What was that like to get into the Naval Academy and to adjust to that lifestyle while in school?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So they look at whole of person. So from your community service aspect to your academic to your sports, aptitudes. They take all into account. My having gone through the summer seminar program definitely introduced me to the Naval Academy. And we are observed during that time frame as well. So I highly recommend a summer seminar to anybody who's interested in the Naval Academy, because it's an important decision to make, that it is for you as well as that it's not for you, and possibly there's another way into the Navy. So it's highly encourage it. And coming out of summer seminar, I didn't quite know still what I was signing up for, but I was very interested, and figured, why not me? Why not now? So as far as the adjustment was concerned, it was difficult for me. I came very much from big fish, small pond. I come from South Central Pennsylvania, and I was very much a small fish in a very large pond, with the caliber of students in academic, professional, and leadership there. And so I just worked the very best, gave my very best each and every day, took it one day at a time. And the amount that it developed me morally, mentally, and physically to levels that I never thought possible for myself, and for achieving for myself. And that was my biggest developmental, my biggest development while I was at the Naval Academy. And I look very fondly back at my time there, not to mention just the caliber of folks that were around me, really raised me as a caliber of a human being, as an individual. And I always thought I was going to serve my 5 years and use it as an opportunity to serve my country and to lead and to mature. But here I am 22 years later and loving every minute of it.
Wow. And it's almost like, I feel like the Naval Academy is like that leveler where it just makes all the leaders who go in there sort of step up their game, because they might have been successful in their respective high schools or whatever, but now they're around people that are basically challenging them to sort of grow and be better. And it just sounds like my friend Suzanne Lesko graduated from the Naval Academy, and we just did her commissioning last January there. And it's a special place. I don't think I really appreciated what that can offer people until I went to that until I went to her retirement ceremony, and I saw the camaraderie and some of the meaning that had for her. So that was really a pleasure to see. So you graduate from the Naval Academy, and I saw that you were on the Decatur. Did you go surface warfare initially?
I did, absolutely. I was an oceanography major while I was at the Naval Academy, and I kind of stumbled upon the major, if you will, and I fell in love with it from day one. And when I found out that I had an opportunity not only to serve my country, but to practice a science that I absolutely fell in love with, I applied for the Surface Warfare Officer Oceanography option. And so I started out my career as a Surface Warfare Officer, First Lieutenant on USS Decatur. And upon completion of that tour, I laterally transferred over to the Naval Meteorology and Oceanography community.
So tell our audience what it was about being an oceanographer. I think there's, a lot of people, like even myself, is like, the weather, like how is the weather like super interesting? So can you kind of contextualize for people like what it was about this career field that interested you?
Absolutely. From the beginning, it was one of my professors that I had at the Naval Academy, Commander Kevin Hayes at the time, and it was just a combination of his passion and zeal for the discipline, as well as the impact and sea stories that he shared from his time in the Navy, as well as the impact that he was able to have as an officer in the Navy, that got me excited about the prospects of the community. Once I came into the community and I learned the vast mission areas that we supported, as well as all the different science disciplines we cover from the seabed to the stars, and that's why we have the tagline, "It starts with us." Is we really do cover all the physical sciences, if you will, from not only just oceanography, but then you have the meteorology aspect of it. And I really appreciate the fact that we are a warfighter alongside the surface warfare officers, the aviators, the submariners, and we really take a look at how the atmosphere, the environment, the atmosphere of the ocean is going to impact their platforms, their weapon systems, their humans, and their mission effectiveness. And so to be able to help them exploit the environment, use it to their benefit, and work around it and within it safely to accomplish their mission is just an incredibly feeling, and it brings job satisfaction. I see it every day in our sailors' faces, and I see it every day in the young junior officers when they have that first opportunity to impact a decision, or that first opportunity to be a part of the decision loop, and that light bulb goes on. Oh, wow. I contributed to the conversation. They listened to me and they made a decision based on the value that I added to the team. And it's just an incredible opportunity each and every day for what we do for a fleet.
That's so cool. Can you share, do you have any anecdotal stories or anything where either your decision or the decision of one of your people made an impact in terms of what the operations, what you guys were doing? I'm sure there have been those moments where I can say that even in my public affairs career, where there have been some key advice or some sort of a decision that was made where I was like, whoa, I really do have an impact on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it happens on a daily basis. Part of our community is comprised of enlisted personnel officer and civilian personnel, and everybody adds to that value and that expertise in an organization. And for example, at Fleet Weather Center Norfolk, I have civilian personnel, enlisted, and officers working side by side. So I think countless events on a daily basis we're impacting the fleet and the fleet decisions. One of the primary missions areas that we cover at Fleet Weather Center Norfolk, for example, is ship routing. And so we really help ships navigate in around, if you will, hazardous weather conditions. And so they can get to their mission on time and maximize on time on station, maximize their mission on time on station, and meet what their nation needs. And so we route them across the Atlantic, and then in and around, for example, we're coming into the tropical season now. And so we provide information on impacts of a tropical cyclone storm along the Gulf Coast and the Eastern Seaboard. And so we'll be working very closely with all the fleet activities, naval bases, to make not only discuss the forecasted track, as well as the severity of the conditions and impacts, as well as onset. And we'll help them, work with them so that they can make the decisions for protection and safety of assets, of property, of people, whether it's sorting the fleet, whether it's evacuating the aircraft, or whether it's keeping personnel safe. And it's just such a rewarding opportunity for us to be part of the conversation.
No, that's amazing. So when you look back on some of the missions that you've been a part of, I think I saw you were in Horn of Africa, you've done the Haiti. Is there any kind of particular experience as you were doing some of these missions that sort of stands out in your mind, especially being a part of the earthquake in Haiti? That I interviewed another guest who was a part of that. He was in the Navy, PAO, and it really impacted him to the point where he just developed an affinity for the area, and started a nonprofit to that effect. Has there been something like that to you in some of your travels?
Absolutely. It would take longer than we probably have time today to talk about all the opportunities I've been given and experience I've had. But unique to the Haiti situation, I will tell you, it was impactful. And my father will tell you it changed me, that he noticed a difference in me when I came back from that experience. I spent about 2.5 months on the ground following the earthquake. And it was the closest I had ever been to such devastation, and death and poverty, and it was probably the most adverse living conditions that I had ever lived in or deployed within. But I would tell you the fruit of that, through that, I didn't just see the devastation, but I saw the resilience of a people and a population.
Wow.
It was amazing to see that, for example, the Central Church in Port-au-Prince was destroyed but you still saw people in the finest whites that they had left carrying lawn chairs to go have a church service, just as one example.
Wow.
And so it was really that counterbalance of, you saw the devastation, but you saw the resiliency. You saw the need for food, for reconstruction, for medical, but then you saw the progress where they began to be able to cook on their own and live on their own and work through that. I got to see how the international community and the Joint Department of Defense came together. They always say, you know, that Marine that takes the water bottle to that last, you know, that last tactical mile. I was able to be a part of that, and it was a unique experience, but it also showed me the value of our military forces. It showed me the value of the international community when we come together and partner to help humanity and to respond to humanity. And it was also an opportunity for me to work in a joint environment with the Army. And they even taught me simple little things like the value of a canteen cup. I think I had been sleeping with a styrofoam coffee cup that I had brought with me from Guantanamo Bay for like a week, until somebody gave me their canteen cup and said, "You need one of these. Would you like one of these?" And the value of it, everything from brushing your teeth to drinking coffee. Right. It's just a funny story, but, you know, you learn how to operate. They taught me how to eat MREs and how to mix them and match them so you can have some diversity in your food. Little things like that was just such a unique, rewarding experience. And I really, like I said, there's the resiliency of a population, of a people, and of humanity coming together that was impactful.
It really is. And a lot of times you don't get that perspective unless you travel and you see how people live all over the world, and you see what types of things they value. And like you said, the resilience, and it puts things in perspective, I think, because you kind of come back and go, wow, well, you know, these people, I saw that in the Philippines. Some of the poorest people were some of the happiest people. And they really didn't have anything, but they had family. And they had very, very strong bonds with one another.
Absolutely. And I saw the beauty of that in my time in Africa as well. And I count them, the countries that I interacted with and the people that were some of the wealthiest people I knew, and it wasn't material.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, they stay in touch with their extended families, and it becomes, they're just surrounded by people that are supportive of them on a day-to-day basis. And it definitely shows in some of the ways in which, like you said, they are wealthy. And it's a really special thing to see. And I think that it's one of the benefits of serving in the military is being able to travel to those other areas and see those things. And so you just keep going on with your Me Talk career, and you get to a place where you start to grow in your leadership. How did that adjustment go from kind of being sort of the tactical staff officer, you know, in your junior officer, your JO days, to going, okay, now I'm going to step up within this organization and I'm going to be a part of increased leadership positions? How did that happen?
Absolutely. It happened quickly for me and my career, for sure. When I headed out to command the Naval Oceanographer ASW Center in Yokosuka, Japan, I was, you know, still in the newlywed years of my marriage, with a newborn, heading out to Japan to embark on a new journey, a new chapter. And there was a lot of, I will be honest, trepidation. I think, I don't want to speak for all 05 commanding officers, but you're sitting up there before you assume command and you're thinking, okay, what am I signing up for? What is tomorrow going to be like? And what is about to come when they announce me as the new commanding officer? But then when you take a step back and you realize that you have a whole team and a team of teams that are there to encourage you and support you, as well as look up to you. So it's that whole lead follow, but as well as look up to you to make those decisions, to provide them the resources that they need. It was a very organic transition to me, for me. And it was a testament. And because of the amazing team that was there prior to my arrival, I was set up for success. And it was a learning journey. I learned every day and learned from my sailors every day. And I hope I taught them as much as I learned from them. And as well as I had a whole bunch of neighbors who were commanding officers, different communities, but we all struggle with the same leadership challenges. Whether it's remoteness from our boss, mine, for example, was in the United States, or whether it was a challenging resourcing scenario or a challenging sailor scenario. It was a wonderful opportunity for me to really learn the value of my colleagues, the value of working in that team, if you will, with fellow commanding officers, as well as the value of your little military village when you live overseas, from a family perspective.
Interesting. So you had sort of a network of other commanding officers. When you were encountering an issue or a problem, you could kind of poll or ask other people what was going on, how did they handle that situation, and you were able to seek advice. What do you think was the most fulfilling part of command, and what do you think was the most challenging?
I would say sailors and sailors. And I count myself as a sailor in the second part of my answer. So fulfilling, just working with sailors every day. And when I say sailors, I mean total force. And so I'm talking about not only just the enlisted personnel, but officers and civilians alike. But when you interact with sailors, there is so much energy, so much hope, so much desire, and so much learning. And every time you see that light bulb come on, or that forecast that they put out that they know they made a difference, or that encouragement and that success, or that failure and that opportunity to try again, whether it's a personal or a professional development, to me is why I come into work on a daily basis, besides accomplishing the mission. And so that is definitely hands down the best. And the hardest and most challenging, again, is sailors. The mantle of leadership is real, and the accountability and responsibility of commanding officers is known, and it's real. And you just, I try my best every day to provide the resources, time, tools, and monies that they need to do their job successfully, and the conditions, even the physical environment, as well as be their advocate, be their coach, be their mentor, be their advocate, and the combination of all of that. And so it can be challenging. Leadership can be challenging, especially when you have to make the hard calls, when you have to balance discipline or handle a discipline problem. And I would say when I count myself in some of the challenges, it was really extending grace to myself. And that's never been an easy thing for me, but if I reflect on a decision that I might have done differently, or I feel like I don't have the work-life health balance that I desire, or I feel like I didn't, something that I talked about as all hands didn't resonate, I could really be hard on myself about it, because I really wanted to give my sailors the best every day. So I found myself in that challenging pocket too.
That's really interesting you said that about something not resonating, because I think that sometimes we think, like, as speakers and leaders, everything we say has to be with impact and has to just, hit the mark. And then to be able to self-assess and look back and go, okay, I could have said that a little bit differently, or I could have carried that message in a different way, and then being open to that feedback. I'm sure that's been critical to your success, was your ability to do that, because not every leader can do that. Even though they're leaders, not every leader is able to do that.
Absolutely. And it's hard to hear sometimes, but I think it's important, because leaders have to have a growth mindset and be learning leaders as well. If we're not, we're failing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. So now you're a commanding officer at the Fleet Activities Meteorology Center in Norfolk.
Fleet Weather Center.
Fleet Weather Center. And how many people are under your charge?
About 160 or so locally, and then my purview extends to 300 plus when you include my two subordinate O5 commands that fall under me. I have the U.S. National Ice Center, Naval Ice Center, as well as the Strike Group Oceanography Team Norfolk, which is the Echelon 5, a subordinate command that puts direct support teams out to the fleet to provide full spectrum meteorology and oceanography support. And I have detachments in Jacksonville supporting MPRA, so your P8 training, as well as ASW and Triton support, so ISR capability platform support. I have a detachment in Sigonella, in Naples, and in Germany, as well as a component at the White House Military Office supporting continuity of presidency for the President and Vice President and First Lady and Second Gentleman.
Wow. So what are some of the hardest calls that meteorologists in the military have to make? Like, what are some of the kinds of things where I can see, like, the ship has this mission, they have to get here by this time, but there's bad seas, there's bad weather, there's this, there's that. Have you had those kinds of conflicts before? And how did you navigate them?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I talked about it earlier. One of the missionaries that we have at Fleet Weather Center, Norfolk, is ship routing. So making sure that we can ensure that ships transit the Atlantic safely and get to their mission, whatever their mission is given, on time or by the date they need to, whether it's for an operation or whether it's for an exercise. And sometimes there's a real tension in when and need they need to get there, and then how we would like them to get there to avoid high seas and winds that might either cause damage or to be hazardous to their operations. And so we very much work closely with, whether it's a ship's captain and navigator, or even for MSC ships with the masters, to help them balance their need to arrive at a certain time for their mission, as well as what's safest for their vessel, depending on the weather that they're trying to route around, whether it's following seas or beam seas that might give them a rough ride. We want to preserve and protect safety of navigation in their vessel. Similarly, whether you're conducting flight ops for a mission, anywhere in the world, we'll just say, whether it's in the European theater or whether it's in CENTCOM, weather isn't always the perfect setup. And so when you're trying to balance, be it thunderstorms, or be it finding the right winds across a flight deck so that we can launch and recover the aircraft safely, that can be a challenge sometimes. So we work very closely with the flight operations on those carriers and those big deck amphibs, as well as the commanding officers. Sometimes they need to fly through a significant weather event, and so we support them to do it as safely as we possibly can, so they can make the best call for their launch and recovery of their assets.
Awesome. Yeah. I think one of the last few questions I have is, if somebody was thinking about coming into the military and they wanted to be a meteorologist for the Navy, what kind of advice would you give them?
Absolutely. Ask questions, be curious, and reach out. It really has been an amazing career. Like I said, our community's tagline is "It starts with us," because really ships don't get underway, aircraft don't launch, boats don't get underway, submarines, unless they have a weather forecast, until they understand the conditions they're at. Similarly, the way we support operations, whether it's submarines and using tactical oceanography, the ocean profile to exploit it for acoustics, to do their mission, we're there to support that. If it's understanding safety of navigation and littoral surveys, we're there to support that. Mine warfare, we use a lot of unmanned undersea vehicles for change detection and to make sure that we can help EOD and help mine warfare operations. And so really, similarly for naval special warfare, we have AGs operating in support of and alongside the operators to make sure that they can conduct their mission, whether it's ingress, egress, or whatever their mission and task is, safely and around the weather conditions. And so it's just an exciting career to be in. We are we're a STEM career field. And so if you are interested, we have basic requirements that we look for when you come into our community from a STEM aspect. And I think even if you would talk to our enlisted personnel that are interested in enlisting, we have an amazing A school and C school pipeline that our enlisted service members go through to teach them those important forecasting skills. And so we can put them alongside those operators on ships in support of aviators and in support of NSW, right alongside and adding the value that they do. And the job satisfaction that they feel and see and do every day is extremely high. They're an amazing group of sailors to work with.
I love it. I love it. So my last question before I turn it over to you for any closing comments is, what about marine? I'm a huge animal lover, so I have to ask the question. What about marine mammals? How do you guys work in that field, or are you related to that? And if so, what are some of the ways in which you guys try to protect marine mammals?
We do not, to answer your question, but I'm smiling because we are a physical science. We often become a volcanologist one day and a marine biologist the next. So it's really not the field we
always seem to be associated with that, but maybe that wasn't really their specialty, I will say.
Yeah, absolutely. But I will tell you, understanding the ocean environment is important when you think about people operating in the ocean. So understanding what type of marine mammals that might be present, that might be hazardous to humans or in the area, or even such things as bioluminescence that light the way, right? If you're trying to work in a dark environment and you're going through bioluminescence. And so to answer, yeah, absolutely. So to answer your question, marine biologists know, although we're often looked for to answer those type of questions.
Oh, they are.
But we absolutely do understand and provide analysis, especially in the littoral areas and close to shore, the type of marine mammals that could be present, because it's important for our service members that are working in that environment to be aware.
Yeah, and to be mindful and do their best to try to protect the animals and then protect the environment and then to keep the ship safe. So
absolutely, and the members safe.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close out this amazing conversation?
Absolutely. It has been a journey, and I would just encourage anybody, if they're interested in the military, talk to a friend, talk to somebody who's in the military, and find out what interests you and write your own story. I think it's a team journey, and whatever team that you're on, but it's also such an individual journey that you're right. And I often talk about on our working uniforms, we've got U.S. Navy on one side and we've got our name on the other. And so I like to tell sailors to think about it that we're part of the United States Navy, 247 years strong. We're part of an incredible legacy that we're helping add that next link to the legacy and to the heritage of the Navy moving forward. And on the other side of your working uniform is your last name. And so we're really creating our own personal story that we should be proud of in our own journey. And so we build each of those each and every day. And so I just really encourage sailors to remember that and write your story and to have fun. It really has been an incredible opportunity. I think most people would say that, even if it's 3 years or 5 years or 20 plus years like myself, you can grow, you can get something, and you can give back to your country.
Right. And that's really what this podcast is all about, is giving back and being of service. And actually, you do have one comment here I have to say. So Captain Acosta, way to go, according to David Acosta.
That would be my husband. Who's a colonel in the Army.
And then, of course, my friend Brian, he's my husband's best friend. He always tunes in. And then, of course, Bobby was tuning in as well and tagged a few of your commands. So this has been such a pleasure, ma'am. I really enjoyed talking to you. It's clear that you are so passionate about this craft. And it's so nice to talk to people who love what they do and are in the right field and doing what they do best. So thank you so much for the opportunity to come on the show. I'm going to go ahead and close out this broadcast tonight, but I want to thank all of you for watching. I'll be on again this Sunday with my very dear friend, Tia McMillan, to talk about a few things. So please look for that promo coming shortly. But thank you so much, ma'am. I'll meet you backstage here in just a moment.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you. See?